Hi everybody, I'm Kayla Bounty, and behind camera right now is my wonderful partner, Hope Carter. And today we're going to be talking about acid rain. What is acid rain, you might be wondering? Well, I can tell you. It is any form of precipitation with high levels of nitric and sulfuric acids. Those forms of precipitation can include rain, snow, fog, things like that. So you might be wondering, okay, what's acid rain and what causes it? Well, we'll talk about two of the not necessarily non-important causes, but they don't create as big as an impact. And those two things would be rotting vegetation and volcanic eruptions. Both things happen and we can't stop them. Volcanoes are gonna erupt and vegetation's gonna rot. Basically what happens is though, you have vegetation that's rotting, and as it's dying, it's releasing gases and toxic things that it doesn't need anymore because it's dead into the air. And same thing with the volcanoes. It doesn't just release lava and ash into the air, it releases chemicals and gases, obviously, because we see it in the air. You see when a volcano explodes, you see the aerial coverage and everything's black. Well, there's tons of chemicals in there, those including nitric and sulfuric acid. Where does it go? The earth picks it up into its clouds, into its soil, its water, everywhere. And yes, it creates an effect on acid rain. It's not the big dog that we really have to worry about. And this may not come to a surprise as some, excuse me, it's been a long day. But the big dog that is really creating all this acid rain is humans. And the little things that we take for granted every day. Okay, so you get up in the morning and you turn on the light to your bathroom, take a shower, turn on the light to your kitchen to eat. Where does the electricity come from? It's coming from a factory. What does the factory run on? What does all these lights run on? Fossil fuels. You might have heard of fossil fuels. They're ancient dinosaurs. Pretty nifty guys. Until they start releasing bad chemicals into our earth, and we have this thing called acid rain. Pretty not as cool, Ancient dinosaurs kind of sounds better. But anyways, so it's little things like that. And then you go get in the car to go to work or to go to school, go somewhere. We have exhaust pipes on our cars so they can release all the crappy stuff our car creates, all the toxins and chemicals. It just releases into the air, and we don't really think about it because it goes into the air. We can't see it anymore, so out of sight, out of mind. We don't care about it anymore. Same thing with the factories. You don't just see. Of course, if you're on a road trip or if you live in a town where there's a factory, you might see the things coming out, but eventually it'll just disappear, out of sight, out of mind, same thing. But this is very, very bad for our environment, and I'm not going to explain the chemistry to you. Instead, my wonderful partner, Hope Carter, will explain the chemistry to you.
Hello, I am that wonderful partner, Hope Carter. And so as my partner told you, sulfur and nitrogen oxides, they go up into the air and are oxidized to form sulfuric and nitric acids. And then while they're up there, they get caught in the raindrops, and they then fall to earth as acid rain. So water, as we know, is at a pH of 7. With pure rainwater, it's not exactly pure because just of all the stuff that goes on in the earth and everything. So rainwater is at a pH of around 5.6. And now in the US, rainwater, because of all the stuff that my partner told you about, has gone up. Around now, it's about 4 to 4.5. And in some cases, it has been known to go all the way down to 2 or around 1.8, which is obviously extremely bad for us and the environment. Okay, so this is sulfuric acid and nitric acid, and when they go into the air, they let off hydrogen ions, and this one can also go down and let off even more hydrogen ions, obviously because it still has one left over, so it lets off even more hydrogen ions. And same thing with nitric acid, it can also let off hydrogen ions. So with all these loose hydrogen ions, it makes the pH of the rainwater drop, obviously, and therefore the rainwater falls to the earth at extremely harmful levels, which creates many harmful effects to our environment, which my partner will now explain to you.
Thank you so much for that wonderful chemistry explanation on acid rain. So, the effects. Now you know about the causes, now you know about the chemistry as to how everything works when that happens. Now we're going to talk about the effects. Obviously, it has effects on humans. Our flesh, our bodies are not made to acid's not good for us, obviously. And so, I mean, there has been cases where acid rain has fell on people and they've gotten hurt because acid. And acid rain also harms our other creations, such as statues. There have been statues made of limestone. When acid rain falls on it, it eats away at the limestone, and we either have completely destroyed or severely disfigured statues, which is not fun. But again, there's always one big dog, the one thing you really focus on, and that would be ecological effects. And it's kind of common sense as to how acid rain would affect our ecosystems, our forests, our water, Earth in general, really. Okay, so you have your acid rain and it gets released by humans or vegetation or volcanoes or whatever you want to say. So it gets into our Earth, into our clouds and everything, and as my partner was explaining what was going on up there. And so it falls to Earth. What happens after it falls? It does what water does. And it goes into streams and rivers and lakes, or it just becomes runoff and it runs off into like forests or anywhere it lands. But when the acid rain is combined with the water, it then makes the water acidic, and that allows the water to absorb metals and stuff, such as like aluminum and whatnot. So we have, which should not happen, by the way. Water should not be able to absorb aluminum. If your water is absorbing aluminum, you should get that checked out. Just saying. Okay, so it falls into into some form of body of water, stream of water, whatever. Well, there's things that live in our streams and our rivers and our lakes, and they're not made, just like humans, to deal with acid, and so they die. Now, granted, there are some aquatic animal species that can better adapt, kind of, to the newly acidic water. If it's like super acidic and it's like burning everything, obviously you can't adapt to that because you're gonna be dead. But if it's like kind of low-key acidic, maybe they can adapt because some species are more adaptable than others. It's just life. So anyway, your animals die. Your water animals die. Okay, so you have that, and that's pretty bad by itself. That's gonna travel the food chain because they die. Then your omnivores and your carnivores have nothing to eat, and then they die. And depending on the ecosystem, it comes back to the humans, and we have nothing to eat, which really sucks because we caused this in the first place, to be honest. So there's that to think about. But then we have to think about the trees. If you don't know, trees grow, okay? Kind of shocking. But they use water to grow. Even more shocking, I know. But anyways, when your acid rain falls into a forest, not only will it damage the outside of the tree, such as the pine needles and the bark and whatnot, but it gets into the soil and it starts reacting with everything. That's all the elements and stuff that are in the soil. And it takes all the nutrients that the trees need, and it replaces them with hydrogen ions and metals and stuff. And trees can't absorb that because that's not good for them. That won't make them grow. So anyway, you have this acid rain, you have this forest, and the trees are trying to take up all the water because they're trying to survive, but they can't because acid rain. So you know what happens? When the cold months come around and the trees are trying to fight for their lives, trying so desperately hard they have no strength. So they die. And not to mention that there are tree diseases that travel like crazy through forest. So they have no strength and they can't fight off the diseases or insects that harm them. And so the trees die. And trees are really important, for oxygen. We use them to build everything. They're shelter. They could have food on them for animals. And so it all becomes a food chain thing where, trees die, animals die, humans die, and it's not good at all. Now, this doesn't happen everywhere. And usually lower elevations, just not higher elevations. Some some soils can neutralize the acid that falls into it. It just depends on the type of soil. And what happens is, if the soil contains certain hydroxide ions, which is a base, then it can, cancel out all the acid, and there won't be as big an effect, and things will be okay. This does not happen in higher elevations just because the soil doesn't have stuff to neutralize, it doesn't have the basis to neutralize the acids. So there's that. Those are just some of the effects. There's probably tons more out there as to how it has destroyed ecosystems and people and homes and just everything that we've created. And so you may be asking yourself, is there a solution to this wackiness, to this complete and utter madness? Yes and no. There's not a worldwide solution because we can't just say, hey everybody, today, don't use your cars anymore. We're not gonna use your cars. We're gonna cut off all the factories and you're gonna have to go back to the Stone Age and learn to do everything all over again without harming the earth. Not gonna happen. The things that we have created to make our lives easier, they're hurting our earth, but we're not gonna do anything about it. Because on a worldwide scale, no one's gonna just gonna stop everything. Like, that's not gonna happen. So that's the no part of the solution, but there's also a yes part. Depending on the where you live, there's been communities where the government of countries or just wherever, they've tried to curb the effects that acid rain has by cutting down all the chemicals and stuff they release into our atmosphere and whatnot, by trying to just cut that down. Or they try to promote alternative sources of fuel besides fossil fuels. But what it comes down to is humans are so used to using fossil fuels, we don't want to change. Like, why would we want to change? And sometimes a source of fuel that is better for our world is more expensive. And everybody's out to make the quick dollar nowadays, so we just don't do it. We just stick with our fossil fuels because it's easy. Even if we were to wake up tomorrow and everybody just switched to an alternative source of fuel, or just vegetation stopped rotting and volcanoes stopped exploding and all that crap stopped being released into the atmosphere and into our earth, it would take years for acid rain to stop falling. Simply because when it's in our earth, it's gonna go through a cycle, and it's gonna take years for the acid to just burn out eventually and get out. So, yeah. Now you know about acid rain and some of the effects it causes. Thank you everybody for watching.